Um, Mixed bag. I'm not sure if I mentioned before that I did have a family friend that passed away. So,
Yeah, that's right. Sorry to hear that.
yeah, so it's been a bit tough on their family, but we're doing what we can to help out our end. But in terms of crypto, there has been a lot going on. There always is, and I will get started in a few moments. I'm just going to wait for Facebook to update. Have you tagged me in?
No, but I'll tag you. It's really noisy where I am. I'm outside actually.
Okay.
Terrible idea. So I'm going to try to relocate, but I'm gonna tag you.
All right, no problem. We'll speak to you soon. Okay, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Well, in the States mostly, but good morning. I know you guys had a time, daylight savings, you had to turn your clocks back 1 hour. Our one happened last week on Sunday. So I've been operating on a what do you call it? I've lost one, gained 1 hour in bed, but lost 1 hour when I'm dealing with you Americans. But now it's back on track with you guys now having that 1 hour. That is if you live in the Central Standards, with the Central Standards time zone and the Eastern Standard one. So I'm sure you guys are happy to gain your hour back in bed. So hopefully you had a wonderful weekend and you've got a great start to your week. I will get into today. In fact, we are expecting some developments to come regarding the SEC's delayed decision on the 9 ETFs. So the market is anticipating that, because if you remember, they were previously delayed, they were rejected actually, and then the SEC decided to review their decision. So if you remember the 9, excuse me, the ETFs that were proposed and submitted, 5 came from Direction for listing on the NYSE ARCA, and then 2 from Granite Shares, that's to be listed on the CBOE if that's successful, and 2 from ProShares, New York Stock Exchange as well. And the decision can be made anytime today from here on out. They can drop it today, they can drop it a few days after. We're just waiting to see what happens. And this has been, the market has been following it closely, because if there's an approval, that would be seen to be a catalyst for potentially another bull run. But we do know that largely there are investors holding back from coming into the space until they have these decisions on the ETFs approved or denied. The finality of it, that's what they're waiting to see before they bring their funds in the market. So it's not that in some cases it's a market trying to it's not to do with the sentiment per se, that they're optimistic about Bitcoin's price or Bitcoin's value in the future, but they're simply it's all to do with timing. So they are looking to see on the regulation side what the SEC does before they come and invest. They definitely want to ensure they take the opportunity while we're at this. It's said that $6,000 is the hard floor for Bitcoin, but there is potentially some temporary bull run that may happen because of BACT coming online in December, and because of these delayed proposals. We're waiting for them to come out either at this point this month, or in the case of the VanEck Solid X, where the market is heavily anticipating that decision at some point. early next year. February 2019 is the expected date. However, we definitely have to see what the SEC does. It may be earlier, it may be around that time. So no one really knows, and that's why the market is anticipating before they make any major moves. And in fact, Bitcoin has been relatively stable. So what I was going to say is, so the last time these ETFs were considered, if you remember, August the 22nd, and then they mentioned after that, when it was rejected by the staff representing the SEC, SEC decided to review that decision, and then by November the 5th is what they put as the next deadline, that investors anyone can comment, they can submit comments for the SEC to review. They've had great feedback on that so far in support of these ETFs. But again, what I was going to say is some of the reasons why these ETFs got rejected initially. Apparently, this is according to a report which I'm going to touch upon. Apparently, some of them have now been resolved. So we're going to see what happens over the next few months, if that's true. So what I was going to say, so in regards to the ETFs, they're like stocks, they're, like investment traded funds on stock exchange. And, these, if you imagine assets like stocks, commodities, bonds, they typically work with some arbitrages. It's meant to ensure that the trading value is kept close to the net value. And so their concerns has been deviation. So any deviations from the standards, it doesn't matter how they happen. This was a concern, which is what for SEC, which is why they've been reluctant about approving ETF application, because they are worried about market manipulation, and that it's because the markets, they still consider it as being small, and if it's small, it's prone to market manipulation. And so that's part of the reason why the SEC had rejected the 9 applications. And also, and because of this, some analysts do say that's one of the reasons why it affected Bitcoin's price, the decline in the preceding month. So we're going to see what happens in regards to that. And in fact, there has been some contradictory information that's out. There has been some leaders in the financial industry saying we're not to expect approval of ETFs anytime soon, and others that are very close to the CBOE, to the SEC, to some of these decision makers, NYSE. Sources have been saying that we're getting closer and closer to potential approval. So this is, it's very hard to tell right now, because a lot of that information that comes out in the public, you have to ask yourself whether that's deliberately, is it, are they really intending that information to just come out and in the hope of driving market sentiment and market behavior? Is this just part of their tricks in the bag, or is this truly a few crumbs, a few clues to what's about to happen? Can we really trust this information? So this is where we would, again, I would always stress to do your due diligence and not put, if you're going to put any additional funds into Bitcoin or any other crypto, you have to make sure that you're putting in something that you could afford to lose, or at least is weighed carefully against the rest of your portfolio. So regardless whether the information is true or false, always take a not financial advice, but just be extra careful when you hear this sort of information in the news. because as the media is one of those primary tools that's used to drive to try and create market manipulation and drive FOMO, and you just have to be extra careful, especially as everyone in this space is waiting to see what the SEC does. So yeah, just be careful with that. And in terms of the report that had tipped that the likelihood of a ETF being approved is likely, is based on sources from CBOE, and they had a meeting with the SEC Commissioner Elad Roisman, and the CBOE, the VanEck and Solidex. They do show a sign of a positive outcome for ETF proposal is what's been reported. And the report authors are Abacus Journal, and so I gave the report they saying, and by the way, just to give you an idea, the commissioner, Commissioner Roisman in particular, he is a pro crypto regulator. So in this is something that again you have to weigh up, because I'm not sure if you're aware as well that there was another commissioner that was against the idea of an ETF, BTC ETF, and they will be replaced by someone called Alison Lee, and so that development, that change, is believed to increase the chances of an ETF being approved. So these little clues you have to take on board, but again, very much the way I'm seeing it is I'm still going to be at arm's length and waiting to see how this develops. And I do think, however, at some point, I mentioned this last week and previously before, I do think based on the infrastructure, the developments, the partnerships, the going-ins behind closed doors, it's in my opinion likely over time that we will have some sort of approval given for BTC ETF. That's my opinion. So I mean, any number of things can happen. I could be wrong, but that's what I think will happen. The timing of it will, I believe, will coincide with certain things that will happen in the market and the information that when the news drops. I'm going to be looking to see if there was any correlation with certain information, as I always do. But I'm, cautiously optimistic that a Bitcoin ETF will be approved. The one I think will be approved is the SolidX, the VanEck one, which uses the settlement will be done physically, so they will have to have real Bitcoins to settle the contracts. And the fact that they're having even if they weren't being reported in the media, it's really tough to think that they would not be having any type of conversations or collaborations behind closed doors. Because if you remember when the CBOE and the CME got approved, they approved the Bitcoin futures late last year. We have to, and then they launched them, early last year, and then later during the year they launched them in December. We have to be mindful of the fact that these are relationships, that they're not just going to be the main concerns that the SEC have, the CBOE, the NYSE, other major market makers and exchanges. They are not they're not just going to sit there and take whatever decisions that they've been given. They're definitely being proactive and know the scope, the size, and the future of, in their opinion, where they think is going to go. So they're going to have certain infrastructure in place and certain protections in place. That's one of the main concerns with the SEC. CBOE and the NYSE and ARCA, they all have experience with these sort of financial institution, what do you call it, in these proposals and these instruments, and they have a clear record of dealing with some of these concerns before something was approved. So we're going to have to see how this turns out, but I think in all likelihood at some point we're going to see some sort of approval happen. And yeah, this is not surprising to me. We're probably going to have a drip. So some information may be leaked, some may be found out. But we're going to have to see how this plays out, because they could be potentially using this to get investors excited or help to change the sentiment before they drop the big news. So who knows what we're definitely going to have to wait and see. And yeah, the confidence, the fact that Abacus Journal is reporting this, it's the conversations that they've had, they specifically, they mentioned the Van Eck ETF. This is not my words, it checks every box, and that they'd be shocked if I'm talking about the one of the sources, the CBOE sources, saying that they would be shocked if it didn't win approval, the Van Eck Solid X CBOE backed one. And in fact, we may expect some dissenting language. We may see them taking a contrarian approach, saying, okay, we're going to approve it. However, we still have these issues. We still have these problems. And it's not just a simple matter of just being approved. We're still going to be reviewing this and seeing what could be done about the issues, the perceived issues with that, with the Bitcoin ETFs. But at some point, apparently, from these CBOE sources, they are expecting an approval to happen with the Van Eck ETF. And yeah, again, it's something you have to just be very careful. And with the investor protection in particular, that the SEC was having an issue with, apparently that's been resolved as well. So that's where the confidence is coming from regarding the Van Eck one. And so also with the CBOE experience, with when they launched with the Bitcoin futures, the derivative markets as well. And remember, the CBOE products, they're regulated. That's one of the things that is reassuring the SEC at the moment. And so the concerns about the price manipulation, that has apparently been mitigated. And this is something the CBOE rules in particular, they are designed to look out for any potential manipulation of trust shares, and it does try and promote investor confidence and protection. So that does have a part to play with it. But yeah, we're going to have to see how, again, this is one where people will have to make a decision for themselves. You can't say for certain 100% that this is going to happen. I think it would be a good idea to always have in my opinion, an air of skepticism, an air of being super cautious, because it is in their interest for the big boys, depending on what comes out in the media, it is in their interest to make sure that you react a certain way. They have an excellent idea of how to manipulate any market. So just be fully aware of what's going on, and whatever risk, whatever position you take, just make sure you practice good risk management and not go too crazy. So yeah, so that's with the ETFs. And again, as we know, if and when we do get an approval for an ETF, it will apparently this will help increase the confidence not only in the market but in the industry as a whole, in even for institutional investors, concerns about manipulation. They're looking to go in with these trusted traditional market makers, and that's why you're seeing a lot of these middle management, or in terms of being in their career 5, 10, 15 years into their career, somewhere in the middle of the ladder. These guys are leaving their jobs in the financial district and moving into the crypto space to help be the middleman, be the one-stop shop for these institutional investors, where they can have custody. They can have their Bitcoins, their cryptos in safe custody. It's regulated, it's insured, but they also want to create expensive products geared towards retail investors as well as institutional investors, to be able to find a way in to make their profits regardless of what happens to the market. So it's more like, during the gold rush in the USA, a lot of people went into mine for gold, but the people that actually got rich off that is the people that sold them the tools to mine that gold. So that's essentially what they're trying to do, is be the platform, the portal, the door, the portal that they'd be able to go in, and these investors need reassurance, simplicity, and if they can go in via trusted, existing, traditional people in the financial space, because they already have those established relationships, they're able to trust them, especially with something as new as cryptocurrencies for them. It is something where they're looking to do it properly, so it has to be regulated, but they also want the assurance, that trust, that confidence, to make sure that the person dealing with their cryptos, with their investments, crypto related investments, they're going to deal with it in a way that is expected, in a similar fashion to how products are dealt with in the traditional space. So that's what's going to happen with the developments with that, with the ETF. So yeah, we should receive some news very soon on that. And you do have to remember as well, with Bitcoin, recently has been, over the last few weeks, in terms of where the price has been, it has been showing some stability. And it comes at a time where the US interest rates it's been rising, and it has been strengthening against the dollar, that strengthening against the dollar against several currencies as well. So Bitcoin's relationship with the US dollar and with other currency, that's something where we're going to have to keep a close eye on. And we're also seeing that historically, I'm sure Aking will probably speak on this as well, that historically price stability is usually followed by some major moves. So, and around November and December in particular, it's had positive price movements during November and December. So we'll see whether history plays out again, or we're going to see some sort of major catalyst that will spark something. We're just going to have to wait and see. Again, just be careful with your positions, and either way, we're going to find out. So not long to wait. What are your thoughts on this, Aking?
I'm still like in a blizzard out here. Does it sound really bad?
Yeah, there's interference, but sorry, it's quiet now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually wanted to show a chart from the historical perspective, like how you just mentioned. Just not put a couple indicators on there. We haven't really changed too much as far as position where we are in price. We've been bouncing around between 63, 64, 6,500. We've seen some moves in the alt market. I know Ox did some numbers. That was the hero of the story. We've seen a little move on POA. So we've seen some altcoins from one region to another, but Bitcoin for the most part has been relatively stable around that 63, 64, $6,500 range. So I could, whenever you finish up, I can open up that chart because we moved a little bit enough for it to be a conversational piece. So I can demonstrate that, but I'll let you finish up on your, and then I'll jump on the chart.
Okay, thank you. Sounds like you're in the middle of Antarctica, like you're walking through a blizzard, like you're battling all the elements, and I can imagine it. So yeah. In other development, Bitcoin Cash, which you guys, I'm sure you've been seeing the developments, it has been up by 12% prior to the hard fork. That's expected November the 15th. So there's been, Binance announcing support, Coinbase announcing support, and in fact, it went up, first of all, 12% upon announcement, and then it went up 25% when the exchanges were showing support as well. So right at the last time before I went on the platform, on Zoom, I saw the price at $573. So it was something showing like it was over 4% increase in the last 24 hours, but within the week it has been up over 20%. So again, it's something that with Bitcoin Cash we have been expecting, because it has to at some point do a hard fork. So if I take it back to November the 2nd, just literally a couple of days ago, Bitcoin.com and Binance, they decided to support the version of Bitcoin Cash that is the ABC version. The original developers of the Bitcoin Cash software that did, if you remember, that forked from Bitcoin last year. And at the announcement when Bitcoin.com and Binance mentioned that they were giving support, Bitcoin Cash had gone up from $425 to $460, and it even touched 470 at that point. And it's been steadily rising until the 570 odd that I mentioned. So the reason and the thing is with even with Coinbase as well, saying that they're going to support the original roadmap for Bitcoin Cash from the bitcoincash.org, and saying that over the next few weeks Coinbase, they're going to take some steps to evaluate the entire network and support it. This is a good sign for Bitcoin Cash holders. I mean, some of them have been right from the very beginning. There's literally two or three camps with the Bitcoin Cash where it has been controversial. Anytime there's a fork with Bitcoin, there's all sorts of fierce debates going on because of one of the biggest arguments that people make are it's not true to Satoshi Nakamoto's vision of it being a decentralized blockchain. And in fact, in some cases, there have been saying, especially with hash power mining aspect of it, it's being run by a few large centralized players, and that's making it less and less decentralized, less and less the idea of what Satoshi had put forth in the white paper. So But Bitcoin Cash does have good advantages over Bitcoin in reality. So I will go into that shortly. But the fact that Coinbase, Binance have come out with their clout, with their influence to support a particular type, the original one, it does make sense. And twice a year, the Bitcoin Cash Network, they hard fork as part of their scheduled protocol upgrades. So with that being said, before November the 15th come through, if you are holding Bitcoin Cash, or even if you've got other cryptos, if you liquidate it to Bitcoin Cash and just hold on until a snapshot has been taken off the blockchain, you'd be able to gain a one-to-one on a one-to-one ratio this new forked coin, this new forked blockchain. So here's the thing with Coinbase in particular. They mentioned that unlike previous BCH hard forks, there is a competing proposals. It's not compatible with the published roadmap. Now, if you guys are aware, with Bitcoin and Ethereum in particular, and other major currency, they tend to go up quite dramatically just before a release of a fork, because they're, typically people, investors do want to gain completely free new coins. And if you had, back in August the 1st, if you had participated in the Bitcoin Cash fork, the original one, and you held on to it now, you never sold it, then you would benefit from it substantially. Or if you had liquidated at the time when we saw that massive bull run with Bitcoin Cash, where we saw the price go several thousand per dollar per Bitcoin, then that's something where people do anticipate, and because of the power behind Bitcoin Cash, and specifically, if you remember a while back, we had some major players switch to Bitcoin Cash. So that was one of the key drivers, and why people are convinced at some point that there's a group that says Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin, and they're going to attempt to drive adoption in that coin until it replaces Bitcoin. But we will see for ourselves that again, it's all to do with the community, the utility, the adoption rate. But Bitcoin has had a head start, if you remember, and this being a fork of Bitcoin, Bitcoin would have to, the original one, Bitcoin Core, would really have to go through some catastrophic events and really be damaged heavily, or there would have to be a significant amount of pressure and competition and adoption of other competitors. Something would have to make it defunct, or some major flight of investors. The market really has to lose a lot of the confidence in Bitcoin Core for it to then switch to another potentially store of value. The problems with the speed, with scalability, that's something that other blockchains, other projects are looking to, they're working on that as we speak, and they're looking to have that as another driving factor to increase their value in their projects, and so that takes away some of the Bitcoin holders and move them there. But again, I think it would have to do a lot with the fact that Bitcoin's utility, the network effects are so strong with Bitcoin. I would like to see something equivalent with another blockchain to really really challenge Bitcoin's position as the number one. But it hasn't been easy for Bitcoin at all. I mean, we've seen its market share drop at times to less than 50%, and it's recovered from that. And the fact that Bitcoin has died more than 300 times, its resilience, it's got a track record, and of course, with it being the first Bitcoin, and a lot of currently the altcoins are coupled up with Bitcoin, unless something happens where they're decoupled en masse, they're decoupled en masse from Bitcoin. That's something else as well, because a lot of investors do see Bitcoin as a gateway, and especially with first-time investors coming into the space, Bitcoin is usually the first port of call that they go to, and so again, there's going to have to be some major developments against Bitcoin's Bitcoin for that. And if Bitcoin goes down, we have to see, you know, how many, indeed, if there'll be just a few that, so there's a few other projects that would survive without Bitcoin. So that's something, again, we're going to have to see. Yeah. If you remember, I don't know how many of you guys have held on to Bitcoin Cash from the first time it was released in August 2017, but you'll see that the relationship since then with other especially in the community with Bitcoin Cash, they have been split in. They've been divided on ideas on how to take Bitcoin Cash forward itself, and then within that, where I do anticipate even more forks to happen. So that was with Bitcoin Cash, and just wanted to break that down a little bit as well, the difference between Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin. So with the block size with Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Cash has something like 8 megabytes to 32 from 8 megabytes to 32 megabytes, and for Bitcoin is 1 megabyte. And the Bitcoin Cash doesn't have a SegWit. It won't have SegWit at all, and Bitcoin will not have a replace by fee feature as well. So they're still working on that, and predominantly with Bitcoin Cash, it is super fast. It is reliable, and the fees are lower. So that's one of the key things that that has been helping to drive the value of Bitcoin Cash. And you know, it's thanks to that 8 megabyte block size that it's fast and it's quite powerful. We're talking transactions in seconds and confirm in minutes, whereas with the with the Bitcoin, as you may have experienced yourself, it can take minutes to hours, depending if there's bottlenecks. Yeah, it's pretty good. I've used Bitcoin Cash before, and the network is usually congestion free on Bitcoin Cash, and it's pretty functional. It doesn't jam up the network. Again, that's to do with the block size. And yeah, and the biggest reason for Bitcoin Cash, the reason why it has so much support in that community is the low fees, Bitcoin Cash. And you know, that's one of the main problems of Bitcoin, it being too expensive. So yeah, that's something which they've been saying that that's one of the reasons why they switched from Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash. And also the differences in ideology as to how to take Bitcoin forward. Originally, that was one of the reasons why they split. So yeah, and speaking of division, the Bitcoin Cash community, they are they do have opposing ideas. And what I was going to say is with quite, yeah, you can see like there's there's a tribal mentality with this, and the fact that Coinbase, Binance have come out on Bitcoin.com saying that they're going to support the original, the ABC one. They're the ones behind the upcoming Bitcoin fork. They're giving it more credence. They're giving it more legitimacy. And the other one, this guy, one of the Bitcoin prominent players, Craig Wright, he's known as Fake Satoshi because he also claimed to be Satoshi Nakamoto, but he's been discredited about that, and he hasn't proven it. And their version, their Bitcoin Cash, and also with mining pool operator CoinGeek as well. And they support the Bitcoin Cash client released by Nchain, and so that's another tribe of Bitcoin Cash that they're in. They're at loggerheads with how they're going to take Bitcoin Cash forward. And I would, in my opinion, I would go with the one that has the most adoption, the most partnerships, and the most strongest support from the community. So again, with Binance and Coinbase coming on board, Bitcoin.com, that definitely that gives it extra value and credence and legitimacy. So that I definitely support. And Bitcoin.com, by the way, the website is owned by one of the first players with Bitcoin, Roger Ver. So yeah, he'll also support the ABC client with the mining pool, the wallet, the block explorer, and other services as well. So yeah, that's something which we're going to have to see. I mean, that's why Bitcoin Cash has been these two developments regarding the fork and the fact that the Binance and Coinbase, such influential players, are coming in to support that version of Bitcoin Cash, is the reason why we saw the pump in price with Bitcoin Cash. So yeah, it's taken it, I think, over 25%, over the 20% mark this week. And if major businesses keep, backing Bitcoin ABC client, the original one that forked in August the 1st, some of the belief is that the network's disruption may not be that big, but some have pointed out that the large hash rate losses can be dangerous for the chain as well. So I'm not too worried about Bitcoin Cash at this stage, and the effects on Bitcoin. But that's something where, with these powerful players looking to, the ones I'm more interested in is who the groups that mine Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, what they're intending to do. So like Bitmain, and we know with Bitmain's history in the market as well, they're extremely powerful player. They're looking to diversify in different areas as well. But I'm keeping an eye out on who the centralized players, what they're looking to do, because they're of the enormous hashing power. They are able to, it's not just for the security and the integrity of the blockchains, but the future price, the value will be heavily influenced by what these major parties are looking to do with these respective projects. So that's yeah. And also, Bitmain has something like over 1 million Bitcoin Cash in its wallets. So if let's say Bitmain, God forbid, but if Bitmain decides to liquidate partly or all of their 1 million Bitcoin Cash tokens, that will definitely crash the market, from my understanding. So again, that's something which I would like to see what these players such as Bitmain have in store. So again, that's it's at your own risk. It's not financial advice, but I definitely see at some point Bitmain looking to make looking to analyze the situation with these forks and with what's about to happen, and see what they decide to do is where I will probably base my future decisions on it regarding Bitcoin Cash. So yeah, that's Bitcoin Cash. And in terms of the current and how this is affecting other cryptos as well, because of the low volume that we're seeing, that the price is relatively stable. I'm sure Aking will talk on that. And yeah, it's interesting to see. And by the way, in terms of watching forks, BitMEX has released a fork monitoring tool in the run up to the Bitcoin Cash hard fork, and obviously for future forks as well. But this is specifically for Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash forks. And it's called forkmonitor.info, and it's pretty useful for tracking and monitoring the situation regarding network upgrades, whether they're soft forks or hard forks, because if we do have a potential problem, it can help to detect unwittingly some consensus bugs. So the fact that it's connected to several nodes on both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash networks, this is just another tool to help give us confidence and yeah, it's actually timed. They've mentioned this now, time to just before the Bitcoin Cash fork happens, so people can start using it. And yeah, and they will move their focus as soon as the Bitcoin Cash has finished the fork. They will move their focus back to Bitcoin. And yeah, Aking? Hello? Aking?
I'm right here.
Oh, okay. I thought I lost you in the blizzard.
I just got some. Oh, what's going on?
I can hear you now. I was just waiting for the background noise to stop.
I'm gonna try to right now, so I can. Okay. What was I gonna say? Oh, yeah, the charts, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, give me 1 second to pull that up.
Charts. And in particular, can you check out after you've checked out Bitcoin and Ethereum, it would be great if you take a look at 0x. If you have Maker, if you have MKR, if you have that, if it comes up on TradingView, that would be great. And BAT again, because apparently some of these tokens are decoupling from Ethereum and deciding to go on their own. So it'd be interesting to see what the charts say.
So you want to see that? What else you want to see?
0x BAT. And if you have that coming up, it's called Maker. It's a stable coin for decentralized stable coin. Maker.
What's the ticker on it?
MKR. Or the product, the stable coin is called DAI.
Oh yeah, actually I do have. Look at that. Let me see.
Yeah, if you show us what's going on there, because the fact that they're moving away from Ethereum, there's a lot of confidence behind that decision to because they're expecting them to do extremely well over the next few years. So I'm curious to see if they're about to go on another bull run.
All right, let's share this screen then. All right, so this is Maker right here. This I'm looking at it on MKR. This is against the USD. This is Bitfinex. Let me see. Binance, no, I guess they're not on Binance. This is Bitfinex, so we don't have that much information on Maker, but just looking at it, looks like we obviously have a form of support and resistance right here in this area.
Mm-hmm.
So we could be, you know, pushing up to make a higher move right here, and just putting some basic trend lines and confluence together. I would do something like that. As far as the uptrend that was recently, that we just recently came down from, this right here would be like the downtrend. So it looks like this is the daily time frame. So it looks like we're just now breaking this downtrend on Maker. And I'm just doing this on the fly real quick to give you guys a quick idea of how I see it at least. And then let me take the fibs on here, see where we are. So it looks like we're bouncing right at the 0.618 fib. So the 0.786 fib will be my next target for a retest. And that's at 697, basically 700. This is on the USD. And if we break above the 0.786, then this thing can really start to work its way back up. In my view, at least, if we reject from the 0.786, then I can see it coming back down. The RSI is not telling us too much. We are having a break for the downtrend of RSI. This is the ATR. Our ATR is telling us that we're due for a move, so that's really good. So, yeah, it looks like it's developing, setting up pretty well. What else am I looking at? You said OX?
If you can look for 0x, yeah. 0x.
I don't have it.
ZRX.
Oh, ZRX?
Yeah.
That's on point. Well, let me look at something. Let me look at it somewhere else so we can have some info on it.
And good morning to Terrence, Kevin, Cheryl, Jay. Good morning, guys.
So that was the uptrend on 0x. We look like we had a downtrend right here that was just broken on 0x. Looks like we have some. We have a pretty good area of support right in here, where where it tested pretty good. So with 0x, let me see. Let me get my fibs out. Let me see where we are. This is at the 200 EMA on 0x. We're rejecting from that. So on 0x, we're pulling away from this 200 EMA. We did break this major downtrend, so the opposite side of that. So what I'll be looking for on 0x to see if we bounce from this 0.5 fib and get above this 200 EMA. If we daily close above this 200 EMA around that 85 cents, really I would say 83, 84 cents, then I will begin to target back up here to the 96 cent range. So right now, even though the price action is bearish, we're still above support. So as long as we stay above 77 to 75 cents, yeah, as long as we stay above 77 to 75 cents, we're bullish. If we go below 75 cents, then I'll be looking to buy in around 70 cents. If that level of support fails, then we're coming back down to 60 cents. So 77 to 75 cents, the area to pay attention to. If we hold there, then we're going back to 85, 96. What else we got?
BAT, B-A-T.
Oh yeah, we were all over this back project when it went pumping.
Yeah, there'll be more news coming out regarding that, but go ahead.
All right, so that's how I see the long-term trend on BAT, short-term trend. Then we had a. All right, let me just see how this thing looks. I'm just doing this real quick to see where price is, so we can get an idea. All right, so BAT is rejecting from the 0.618 fib level. We're starting to get some RSI divergence on BAT. This is the daily time frame, meaning price is making higher highs, but the oscillator is making lower highs. Yeah, so BAT, I wouldn't be optimistic to seeing higher prices just yet. Price action, I mean, this right here could have been a bull flag. So price action gave us this breakout on a bull flag. But honestly, for me personally, I mean, BAT could go up as high as this 37, 38 cent range. But based on this daily divergence right here and the rejection we're getting here on these wicks on the daily time frame, I wouldn't be very optimistic for that. So for me, if I was looking to play bat, I would try to look for a pullback to this main uptrend. This is the main uptrend right here, this blue line. So if we can get back to over here somewhere around this 25 cents, that would be great. So that's what I would really look for, hope for in bat, to get a really good pullback. If you got in right here, this is a bullish flag. I see it as a bull flag. It looked more like a bull flag on the smaller time frames. Let me take a look. Yeah, see, on the smaller time frames, it looks even more like a bull flag. So on the smaller time frames, this right here, it could bounce from this 29, 30 cent range. So let me give you the synopsis. This is how I would play it. Keep in mind, we do have a daily divergence, meaning it's bearish daily divergence. So ultimately, it's saying this trend is coming towards the end. But if I was to play this thing towards the upside, I would target 37, 38 cents. I think that's about as far as this thing can go. Let's see, 22%. Yeah, I'm about the 37, 38 cents is about as far as it can go. But we are overextended based on the RSI, based on this big run up that we made in price. So I would consider more like a high risk buy-in. So if you have the tolerance for that, go for it. But for me personally on BAT, I would look for some type of pullback, at least down to the 25, 26, 27 cent range, somewhere in this area, and then to buy back up again. So it could go straight up. With BAT, for me, I would exercise a little bit of patience to try to get in on a pullback. It just made a terrific run up. So I think we're at the end of that trend. What else you got?
That's it for now. I can't see any. That's it in regards to the
Bitcoin. So this is Bitcoin. I still see us in this falling wedge, in this descending triangle. So we've been in the descending triangle for a while. Since then, we had this minor uptrend within the descending triangle, and price has respected it pretty well. At one test here, almost a test here, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth test, and a seventh. So right now, Bitcoin is on its way up, and we did break a minor downtrend line in Bitcoin. I seen a minor downtrend line here for Bitcoin, so we did break that minor downtrend. However, the game doesn't really start getting interesting until we break above $6,600, $6,700. Really and truly still until we break above $7,000, and not bullish again until we break above $7,500. So a lot has to be said, a lot has to be proven, a lot has to be done. And here's the thing, guys, we can break out of this thing and still fall flat. So looking at the RSI doesn't really tell us too much on Bitcoin. It's kind of consistent with price. We're kind of in this trend right here on the RSI. So a breakout is looming on BTC. I think so, at least. So I think a breakout is looming whenever we actually break out of this consolidation period. It's still more likely that breakout comes towards the bottom than the top. We touched the 200 EMA here. We've never touched here. Then we wicked up to touch it over here. So the EMA is pretty much consistent with prices sloping down. So price is still very much so bearish. So that's not a huge surprise to anyone. So what we're looking for now to see if this thing breaks up or this thing falls down, I say I'll give it like a 20 to 30% breaking up and about 70 to 80% that's going to break down. So we'll see. I think it's really risky to take any positions on Bitcoin right now, unless you're looking for the long term. You want to hold for the long term, then it may be a little bit less risky. Long term means, year, 2 years, 10 years, stuff like that. Now, years not a long term. I'm talking 5 years, 10 years. So I think Bitcoin has a tremendous upside potential. We believe in it. Go for it. Outside of that, if you look at the ATR, the average true range indicator, that's also telling us we've been on a major slope on the ATR. So a major move is due, and a major move is coming on Bitcoin. I just think with the shorts that are stacked so high, a lot of things can happen here. We can spike up, spike down. So we'll see within the next couple of days exactly how Bitcoin moves. But still, my target is still the same. I still think Bitcoin still needs to see 4,000, 5,000 range, like $45,000 to $5,000 range. But ultimately, I still think it's coming down to $2,000 to $3,000 at minimum, and then $1,000 to $2,000, within capitulation, the market bottoming out and turning around. So That's what the charts are saying for right now. And until that changes, that's just my position on it.
Mm. Thank you. And in regards to what I mentioned about the reason why I wanted you to look at BAT, ZRX, and Maker was they're one of the 10 projects that are decoupling from Ethereum. So, you know, these tokens are creating their own platforms and communities instead of relying on Ethereum and trading against Ethereum. So, and this is not going to, so some people are thinking that this will mean it's going to be the demise of Ethereum, which is far from it. So I wanted to see if that also matches what's happening fundamentally as well on the charts, because there has been some bullish developments with these. And as we've already covered basic attention before, and if you remember last month, the Brave browser, they introduced with that acronym version of it, which basically makes the existing the previous browser 22% faster. So that helped to they also had a beta version, and also with Coinbase Pro being announcing that they were going to list it as well. So now the fact that they're decoupling from Ethereum, that is another major move forward in confidence with what they're planning, in line with what they've been saying and what they're planning to do. They expect to have more positive developments on that. And even with ZRX, because of the close relationship they have with Coinbase, that has certainly helped. And it was expected that would be approved, and it did. With Coinbase Pro, when that got announced as well with the listing, and with Maker in particular, that has definitely been growing in terms of community support, and in fact, it's becoming the go-to stable coin for on decentralized exchanges. And if you remember, I mentioned that in terms of how I see the debate in stable coins, the decentralized versus the centralized, I do think the decentralized is the way to go. That is the future. That's the closest approach to making sure we're still aligned with the original ethos of Bitcoin, with this space, with the idea of decentralization and the benefits it brings. So that I'm not surprised to hear that Maker has been quite popular with the community, and they are they launched their product DAI, DAI, which is a stable coin, and it does have real world use value. So I do see that continuing to go up in value over time. And it's also in terms of the algorithms it sets, it is dollar pegged, by the way, and we have seen over the last few years the price, its market cap has gone up. So look out for the progress that DAI, that Maker, MKR, makes, and in particular with DAI, their stable coins. And so just to make you aware that over 60% of the total market cap of Ethereum is the ERC20. The ERC20 tokens have something like $12.8 billion in value. And so with these particular coins, you do have to keep a close eye because of their decoupling status. That's something where I can see them getting, you know, again, not financial advice, but I do see positive developments happening with those particular projects. And this is also backed by the report from Sentiment as well, and they analyze these data. So yeah, it's a data analytics platform, quite popular. So yeah, there'll be 10, 2 of them already listed on Coinbase, that been approved by approved by Coinbase. And then the other 8, we'll definitely have to keep a close eye on the 10 ERC 20 tokens that are going to decouple from Ethereum. So there was something else I wanted to mention as well. There was news regarding Ripple as well. They're going live on Coinfield, and so with that, the investors of Ripple have been pressing and making their case to have Ripple, for Coinfield to use Ripple as their base currency. So for a lot of the other currencies that are there, they want XRP to be coupled up with them. And Coinfield are quite huge. They have services available worldwide, and they will make it available in over 60 countries. And so with this particular one, though, you do have to complete your KYC process during the registration. And yeah, this was driven by Ripple owners and Ripple fans putting a petition forward for Coinfield to make it their base currency. And I do see this gaining momentum elsewhere as well. And in fact, there's another group which is kind of biased and it speaks for themselves. They're called XRP United. They also decided to make their base currency XRP as well, Ripple. So yeah, that's and also with Coinfield, they're looking to it facilitates about 28 trading pairs and exchanges across 6 other fiat currencies. So we're looking at yen, the pound, British pound, US dollar, Canadian dollar, euro, and even UAE dirham. So yeah, do expect more to some of the other competitors to follow suit, at least consider it. And the more Ripple has a real world use case and they have more of these collaborators coming on board, the more the value of XRP is expected to rise, and the trading volume will increase as well. So again, not financial advice, but definitely keep an eye out on the developments with that. Yeah, and also the talk around XRP potentially getting listed on Coinbase, that's been going on for quite some time now. And there were concerns about the status, concerns whether it's, centralized, and if XRP will be able to, they have obviously been getting well over 100 over hundreds of top banks and financial institutions signing up to be part of them, and also to replace the SWIFT system and take charge and play a dominant role in terms of the remittance payment system. So that's something which we're going to be seeing XRP get more and more popular with. And then remember the announcement with X-Rapid as well, in terms of utilizing XRP as a bridge for the fulfillment of cross-border payments. So this is something where Coinbase has been considering it, and they haven't made any official announcements, but this is something, again, I can imagine as well, when some news comes out that they are officially looking at that, it will not come to, it's not going to surprise too many XRP holders, but at some point, because of the increased developments with XRP, I myself in particular, I can see how this would be approved by Coinbase, because with each development that comes out, they have been showing real world use case. So it'll be interesting to see what Coinbase does. And yeah, and also I think Ripple has been in talks with Trump's administration. Again, I'm not a fan of Trump's administration or the fact that Ripple is working with governments. I have mentioned this before. And yeah, I do think with or without Coinbase involvement, Ripple, based on what I'm seeing, it can continue to grow in value over time. But I'm not a fan of Ripple because of the fact that it doesn't follow the ethos, the decentralized ethos, the ideas of why of what Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper had envisioned and laid out. So that's one of the reasons. And I don't like the fact that they're working with governments and financial institutions, and they have come out to say they're rather, instead of fighting them, they're rather work and collaborate with them. And yeah, I'm not too keen on that. So if you're going to be in the crypto space, I feel you can still work with the traditional space, but the whole idea of crypto and decentralization is that you have a separate, the ability to determine your own financial destiny away from the big boys, away from traditional markets, and you're able to properly diversify and mitigate your risk from different markets and different stakeholders involved. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. And what's interesting to note, though, with Coinbase, they have received approval from the State Department to act as a crypto custodian, which means Coinbase are potentially looking to, at any point, offer custodial services, maybe even for Ripple as well. So we're going to have to wait and see how this plays out. But yeah, we will see what happens. And that's oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to mention. I'm not sure if you guys heard, with the Winklevoss twins suing one of the Bitcoin early players, Charlie Shrem, and they basically said that he still owes them, that he's in debt to them. So he had, well, they've been doing this very quietly. The what do you call it? The Winklevoss brothers. This hasn't been in the news much as to how much it should have been actually given more prominence, I think, because these are these are major players, early adopters, early investors in Bitcoin. And in fact, Charlie Shrem is known as the first Bitcoin felon. So he did get in trouble with the law for helping people be able to. He actually, yeah, he was guilty of assisting users to make Bitcoins from dollars to purchase illegal drugs online, and so he did serve some over 1 year. I think it's 1 year jail time. So, so what was so controversial is that he claimed he has absolutely no cash, but as soon as he came out from prison, he managed to get 2 powerboats, 2 Maseratis, some real estate, a house, multi-million dollar house in Florida, and other luxury items, which, people are wondering, did he have a secret stash of Bitcoin somewhere that he didn't tell the federal, authorities about? And they think, they say that they owe him $32 million in debt back in 2016. So yeah, that's why they're going after him, because it's just like, he's saying he has absolutely no money, no wealth, but out of nowhere after prison, he managed to acquire all this. So, and also he owes money to the government, something like almost $1 million worth restitution payments. So again, he's got he's got a lot on his plate, Charlie Shrem. And Vitalik Buterin is looking to step back from Ethereum because he thinks for Ethereum to really fulfill the idea, the vision he has for it being truly decentralized, he would need to step down. And in fact, some of the major decisions already been made. He's given it to the community, to his team, and the community helps try and develop that as well with the feedback that they give them to the team. So yeah, that's and it's funny because what do you call it? They've had DevCon, the annual conference recently, and Buterin was mentioning his vision for Ethereum 2.0. If you remember, Constantinople upgrade was delayed until next year, and he's still looking to help in terms of the scaling issues that Ethereum has been going through. So that's starting to, that they're looking to tackle that. But he said one thing in particular was that his influence in this project, he will still help, he will still be involved, but he wants to do it behind closed doors in the background, and allow the team and the community to take Ethereum, to take ownership of it and take it forward, and to promote the natural growth of it. So the decision making, essentially, he's delegating that. But he did get attacked by there was a critic, J.A.R.V.i.Z, that said that actually he's looking to leave Ethereum because something negative is going to happen to Ethereum, and he feels that this is just another way for him to escape before the eventual downfall, in his words, of Ethereum, and because he says that it cannot compete with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin real competitor is actually the US dollar, euro, and gold. So but Buterin snapped back and said that he was not in charge, and that J.A.R.V.i.Z had absolutely no credibility to say this, and that he made inaccurate statements. So he Buterin fact-checked J.A.R.V.i.Z, and that he wanted to assure people that he was not leaving. This is not him making some sort of exit from the thing because something else was going to come out that would have a detrimental effect on Ethereum. But this is something which he felt, to really take Ethereum forward, he needs to step back, which is a brave thing to do if you are the founder and leader of such an influential project, and the founder of smart contracts and the major significant amount of ICOs that had been launched on the ERC20 standard. It is, I feel that he is doing the right thing, and if you do truly believe in the project and the vision, and you have an awesome team behind you, and you have a strong community behind you, that by all means, it makes sense to me to do that. And in fact, one of the problems of leaders is that they hold on to too much power, and they're scared. They're essentially scared to allow other brighter minds to come in and make changes to what they consider as their baby. But really what he's saying is, this is not just my baby, this is everyone's baby, and I want everyone to take responsibility and a stake in this, and be able to help to drive it forward. And the true nature of decentralization, to really play out to that vision, is to step back and relinquish some control and influence, so you can have other people better than you step in and steering this ship forward. And he's not jumping off board. He's not leaving it. He's still there. He still has a stake in it. He's still, whether it's financially and socially or any type, he's said that he's not leaving. So I mean, it's not to say he will never ever change his mind. It's just he has a good track record at keeping his word, as opposed to some, naysayers that have been constantly flip-flopping and saying certain things to garner attention and viewers and ratings with Tone Vaye. He is a controversial character, let's say. So and he's a Bitcoin maximalist. He's a huge staunch supporter of Bitcoin. So Buterin is not surprised that he's come out to attack Ethereum. But again, this could be just, it would make, he would get some sort of, extra advantage by mentioning this, by attacking Buterin. So anyway, that's it for now. And Aking, any final words?
No, you got it. I can't top that. How can I follow that?
I mean, quickly, what do you think of Winklevoss brothers?
He's not a critic. He's like one of the top traders of all time. Like he gets a lot of criticism because he thinks every altcoin is crap and Bitcoin is the only true crypto. But he's really respected and highly criticized. But I wouldn't call him a critic.
And what do you think of Charlie Shrem stunting and fresh from jail, he grabs all of his all of the luxury trappings? Do you think possibly he could have had a secret Bitcoin stash that he liquidated and suddenly he's wealthy again? Like, how do you go from no cash to suddenly wealthy if you don't have Bitcoins or cryptos?
Say that again?
I'm not sure if you heard. What are your thoughts on Charlie Shrem, who's been sued by Winklevoss brothers because apparently he owes them millions of dollars, and back in 2016 that he lent them, and that they lent him, and he's gone out straight from jail with no cash, and he owes the government money as well, almost $1 million, and he's gone out and gone big pimping with yachts and houses and cars and whatever, and real estate and whatnot.
I mean, what can you say? People are going to do people going to get greedy and live the fast life. What can you say?
Yeah. But he's one of the original people. Like when during Bitcoin's come up, you had major these early Bitcoin followers, these Bitcoin heads, just literally still looking to cash in on their fame, on their notoriety, I guess. But yeah, he did some jail time, and then now he's back big pimping. And everyone, well, not everyone, but specifically the government and Winklevoss brothers are after him, saying that he does have money, but probably in Bitcoin. But anyway, that's it for now. I know we've gone over our time, but hopefully that was good. And let me see. Just very quickly as well, Ethereum, they do have an energy project. It does help to power over 700 households in 10 different cities. I'm not going to get into that detail today, but I thought I'd mention that as a closing thing, because I do see how the blockchain and projects that would help people get affordable housing is definitely going to be something to watch. I do see this getting more popular at some point, if everything. Can you imagine if with all the housing shortages, homelessness in particular, this would, if there's any projects or any initiatives that can help people find affordable housing or create housing from scratch, and it's powered, help to blockchain can be used or cryptos can be used to help that, make that a reality, I'm all for it. So I thought I'd let you know very quickly if Ethereum's involved with that as well, with the energy project in particular, powering the houses. Sorry, that's to do with the energy consumption, but also there was something else I read in regards to put in affordable houses and I know already it's been started in Indonesia, so that's something I wanted to imagine when that comes to the States, how powerful that would be. All right, so have a fantastic week, everyone. Stay blessed. Oh yeah, and good luck with the elections if you're voting in the midterms tomorrow, I think, Tuesday. So yeah, and if you're not voting, that's cool as well. But either way, I pray for your country, for everyone, and best wishes with that, guys. And that's it from me. That's it.
All right, Azzy, we'll catch you next time.
Okay, thank you. Peace out.